pause it if you want.
Go ahead and get started. So happy to be here with y'all. Welcome to Health Equity in Action, Libraries, Communities, Opportunities, a summit hosted by the American Library Association Social Responsibilities Roundtable, or SRRT. SRRT believes that libraries and librarians must center social responsibility by recognizing and helping to solve social problems and inequities to work for the common good. My name is Kim Reichenbach-Kretka, and I am assistant professor in the Library and Information Studies program at Old Dominion in Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm so excited to be here today with all of you and with our presenters. I'm joined by two other SRRT members supporting us in this session, April on tech, and then I thought Rachel on chat, but maybe it's someone else, but someone else is helping us with that too. And then to enable captions, click more in the bottom right of the screen and then click show captions. Our session today will be recorded and the recording will be available on our website within a few weeks. This session has a focus on from research to reciprocity, enhancing access to library services, and it will include two presenters. The first being José Aravena, Assistant Professor, Aging and Quality of Life Research Unit, University of Chile, Research Associate, Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences, School of Public Health, Yale University. And he'll be presenting from research to reciprocity, co-creating brain health knowledge with Indigenous communities. Johanna Brannon, from Porter Branch Adult Services Programmer of the Central Rappahannock Regional Library, will be presenting on demand support for English language learners, enhancing access to library services. Full presenter bios are also available on our website if you'd like to learn more. And then we'll be taking questions for the panelists after both of their presentations are concluded, so at the very end. And they've already both expressed excitement to have your questions. So please use the Q&A to pose questions. You can do that at any time. We'll just be responding to them at the end. And then please reserve chat to relay any tech issues, resource shares, or appreciation for our panelists. So without further ado, Jose, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this invitation and for having the time to share this experience that we have been working. So I think I'm gonna turn off my camera because I'm experiencing a little bit of freezing. So uh, all right. So okay, so this is the work that I'm going to present right now. This is a project that summarizes two main concepts, I think. One, the main product, it is the co-creation of a brain health knowledge guide for indigenous people, particularly for indigenous community called the Mapuche people who live in the southern part of Latin America. But our second main takeaway of this presentation, it's the fact of how a research project started, how a project who started from research ended being a contribution for the community. So I'm going to present this on two parts. First, I'm going to show you briefly the result of the research project, but then I'm going to show you our main finding, which was this development of this brain health guide for Mapuche indigenous people. So here on the left, you see the life expectancy of indigenous people in several high-income countries or middle-income countries. And you will see there that life expectancy of indigenous people compared to non-indigenous people, it's 8 years less. So there's an important gap in terms of life expectancy. However, we have a paradox here because even though in these countries, indigenous people live 8 years less, they have a greater risk to develop dementia, and we have more cases of dementia in indigenous people than non-indigenous people on these countries. So there's an important issue here of why indigenous people they have a greater risk of dementia on these countries, even when they they have a shorter life expectancy. The main hypothesis is the fact that indigenous group in these countries they have faced the trauma of colonization and the historical trauma of colonization. So that might be also driven like social determinants of health and the exposure to several dementia risk factors. And this is important because most in the general population, we know that up to 45% of cases of dementia are related to modifiable risk factor related to lifestyle. And that number goes up to 60% in indigenous people. So this is not necessarily a matter of genetics or purely race. This is more about the environments and the experience that this group have experienced. So our main question here for the research was how the way we think about the causes of dementia influence our prevention behavior in the way that our hypothesis was like, well, what happened if people think that dementia or Alzheimer's disease is more related to something internal, like it is because my blood pressure or it's because the physical activity that I perform. Our hypothesis was that people think that is more internal. They will tend to engage more in healthy brain behaviors and they will have fewer dementia risk factors. And the opposite, if someone think that the causes of Alzheimer's disease are external, for example, because of the trauma that my ancestor faces or because of the discrimination that I face because I'm an indigenous person, that those individuals will have uh, a greater number of dementia risk factors. So that was the main aim of this study that we started to conducting here. And to solve this question of how the causes that we attribute to dementia might be related to the risk factors of dementia and preventive behavior, we conducted a study with a specific indigenous group called the Mapuche people or people of the land. Mapuches live on the southern part of South America, and they have a rich worldview related to understanding health as the balance or the harmony of the person with the environment. And they call this concept the kumefelen. And kumefelen, it's encompassed by five different main components. One is the territorial connection. So it's very important for the Mapuche to be connected with the nature or with the place where they live. Second is the reciprocity. So it's very important also to emphasize the social solidarity and equitable trade between different groups or populations or people. This they also emphasize this collective approach where decisions are made by community consensus with respecting the wisdom of elders, the cultural continuity through their art, their own language, and also to keep a balance and harmony between the mind, the body, and on the spiritual plane. So we thought this group was an ideal group to think about, well, how they think about the causes of dementia, how that might impact their behaviors. And also because as many other Latin American and, well, American indigenous group, they have a recent experience of colonization. So we wanted to explore also if those perception of trauma might impact their dementia risk factors. So we conducted a sequential mix of method design with a qualitative and a quantitative component in Chile. We included people 60 years of older with no diagnosis of dementia available to participate. And we included both groups, people who self-identify as Mapuche or part of indigenous group and non-indigenous people. And also, it's important to consider that before to start this study, we first started with meeting with Mapuche older adults, with community leaders to approve all the questions and the study that we were conducted. And after they agree that this was the right question and the right study, we received the approval from the Yale IRB, from the National Service of Older Adults of Chile, and also for the University Central IRB. So our first part, we started with a qualitative component where we just wanted to understand what were the social perceptions about memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and what were the main causes that people mentioned. In order to refine a second quantitative phase, selecting the right questions, refine the instrument, and also refine the language that we were using in terms of speaking about these terms. And the second phase was a cross-sectional survey with 415 people, 167 Mapuche older adults, and 245 non-Indigenous people. And here we recruited people from urban places who were indigenous and non-indigenous places, and also we recruited people from rural places who were indigenous and non-indigenous in order to have this uh, like great representation, not only in terms of ethnicity, but also in terms of the geographic places where people were living. Our main predictor was we just asking open label questions about what do you think are the causes of memory loss, or why some older adults develop memory loss, or why some people develop Alzheimer's disease. And we took note of all those open questions or open answers for each person. And then we classified each person as if they have a more internal thinking, like they attribute dementia to things that are related to themselves, like their health status, or think they can do or actionable strategies. Or if they tend to have a more external causal thinking, as I said, for example, they attribute dementia to their social conditions or some experience of external trauma. And from this group also, we counted the number of people who attributed cognitive health or dementia to traumatic events. So we counted the number of people who mentioned any traumatic events, for example, colonization, childhood trauma, forced rural urban displacement as a potential cause of cognitive health. And also, another outcome was the participation on healthy lifestyles related to brain health, and also we counted the number of lifestyle dementia risk factors. So first, we found that in general, we found 145 different causes mentioned by the 400 participants, and we found that first of all, Mapuche older give much more relevance to lifestyles when we talk about cognitive health, the possibility to develop Alzheimer's disease, of dementia. In contrast to non-Indigenous people who gave much more relevance to social isolation or loneliness as a potential cause of memory loss and Alzheimer's disease, showing this distinction between how my cultural heritage or my worldview might influence how I understand brain health and the causes of dementia. Then we found that effectively, people who tend to have a more internal causal thinking, so those who think that dementia is related to my health status, the amount of physical activity that I do, they tend to engage more on brain health behaviors, and they have a fewer number of dementia risk factors, opposite to those who think that dementia is because of external causes that are out of my control. They tend to engage less on preventive behaviors, and they have a greater number of dementia risk factors. However, the most interesting finding was the fact that Mapuches were much more prone to attribute dementia to intergenerational trauma than non-Indigenous people. And also, only among Mapuche, we found that those who identify trauma as a cause of memory loss and dementia, they have a greater number of dementia risk factors, which was something important, in fact, in terms of not only the experience of the trauma, but the collective meaning that trauma have had on this community might impact the risk of dementia. Now, what was our most important finding in on this study, or I think it was my most important finding? Well, we started to notice that after each interview, at the beginning, people felt a bit hesitant to participate, but once the interview finished, they were extremely motivated, engaged with the conversation. So we noticed that talking about brain health, talking about ways to prevent AD, it was something that matters a lot for them. Nevertheless, at the same time, we started to face, especially at the beginning of the study, rejection. from many, particularly for Mapuche older adults to participate. And we noticed that they didn't have good experiences when researchers came here to take data. And I would like to take this phrase that one of the participants who, I mean, he decided to participate, but then he explained it us why so many other participants didn't want to participate. And he said, many of you come here, take the information, and we never hear from them back. So there is a gap there in terms of how much of us researchers are giving back to the communities, and also how much are we hearing communities in terms of their needs, and how much of our research is in fact responding to those needs, especially on this indigenous group. So from that meaningful conversation that we have with that participant, we started to ask each of the other participants, what would you like to receive for participating? And it was surprising the fact that the most frequent answer was, we would like an educational material, like a book or booklet with the finding of the study and practical advice of how taking care of my brain health, how to prevent AD. So this was a challenge to our way to do science. We were not solving a research question to solve a need. Now we shifted the way that we're doing the study, solving the need, building this educational material to solve the research question. So the first step to develop this brain health material for Mapuche people was assembling a team, and assembling a team like taking into consideration different angles. So we have two graphic designers, one with experience on developing a booklet, the other one with experience on advertising on health message, an expert in brain health, myself, but also we included on the table, once developing this material, a non-Indigenous person working with Mapuche community. And this person was extremely helpful to collaborate on this project. This person also introduced us the right manners to approach this conversation and this work. We also included a Mapuche interpreter and also two Mapuche person who participated actively on the development of the material. Our second main point was we needed to integrate culture, and we needed to integrate the Mapuche culture on this brain health guy. So we had intensive discussions in terms of, well, we have this evidence-based knowledge regarding brain health. How would a brain health guy that also considered the Cumifilen view of the Mapuche people, how we encompass this, taking into consideration their worldview, but also how we make this guide something that is practical, that is applicable to the traditional Mapuche lifestyle or the routine life that people have nowadays. And the third component was taking into consideration all the wisdom provided by the participant. We um, we had 200 Mapuche people Mapuche older adults participating on this study, and each of them gave us wonderful answer with memorable responses. So we thought, let's take that wisdom who comes from there on the interview and put that as part of the brain health knowledge. So this was the result. The guys call it Nyem Muyo, which is the translation is soul of the brain, and the name is Tips for Brain Health and Preventing Alzheimer's Disease from the Voice of Mapuche Older Adults. So here you have, for example, within the guide, we on the left, the first thing was to highlight cultural aspect of the cultural organization of Mapuche people, like first giving them a boost, like saying Mapuche people have a good memory. You have a heritage of good memory. So we tried there to highlight certain actors on the culture or Mapuche culture and why they have such a good memory. Then here, as you see on the right, we took this concept of the Kumefelen and we translated that into the brain imbalance, and we divided the recommendation in three subgroups. Those recommendations who go to the person or the che, those recommendations for brain health to go to the land, the mapu, and those brain health recommendations to go to the soul, the aim. So keeping that cultural heritage also with these brain health tips. In terms of the anatomy of the material, we started in each page first with a concept in Mapudungun and a concept that summarized what we were trying to provide as a piece of advice. For example, taking care of your heart, taking care of your head. So we tried to find a Mapudungun concept that fitted to summarize that concept. Then we added a sentence from one of the participants reflecting that concept in order to make notes like this was developed by the wisdom of the people who participated in the study. This is not a top-down approach. And second, practical advices applied to regular lifestyles. For example, protect your head when cutting branches. We noticed that many people they cut their own branches for making the fire, and they didn't use like helmets. So we wanted to encourage that. Or, for example, Mapuches, there's a typical herb called mate, and they drink a lot of mate, and mate tend to rise up your blood pressure. So we included, for example, if you have high blood pressure, choose mild matter or relaxing herbal infusions. Finally, we already are in the phase of receiving feedback. Overall, people feel this is very well received. They like it a lot. People like the practical advice that applied to the regular life. And also, they value highlighting this Mapuche wisdom, like showing that what participants are saying about this. Points of improvement, they want more Mapudungun language, which is I think is great, and also using more powerful concepts. As in Mapudungun, the language itself, they usually use a single word to summarize powerful concept. So they want to hear more about that. Finally, I just want to share the thoughts of one of the participants who once she finished the read the guy, she said, I feel like my brain matters. And she said that not just in an individual level, like my brain matters. She said that like saying that the brain of Mapuche people matters. So that was my presentation, and thanks a lot. Thanks to all the Mapuche elders, their families, and the communities who share their time, experience, and knowledge, and those also who remember so others do not forget.
Jose, thank you so much. I love learning more about your participants and your responsiveness to them. So it's very meaningful to see all that you just presented. Thank you. And we will go ahead and move on to Joanna. You can go ahead and share your screen and get going. And remember, participants, if you would like to put in Q&A into the Q&A feature, we will get to those once Joanna has completed her presentation.
All right. Hi, everybody. How are you guys today? Okay, so my name is Johana Brannon. I'm one of the adult services programmers at the Central Rappahannock Regional Library. And we are going to have a discussion on English language learning in our community. But a little bit about me first. So I grew up in Mexico, or I was born in Mexico. And we moved to the US shortly before I started school. So once we were in the US, my mom took me to the library, and my love just went boom. I was reading books all the time, 24/7, and I couldn't get enough. And then we moved again. Of course, I find the library, and I start volunteering there. So after a few years volunteering, I got a position And so now I have been with this system for close to 15 years. And then I have been in my programming position for 5 years. And it's a little picture of the library of the branch that I work in. It's very nice, very beautiful. So the system that I work for is called the Central Rappahannock Regional Library. And it's made up of 13 locations. Okay, so we serve Stafford, Spotsylvania, Westmoreland counties, and then we also serve the city of Fredericksburg. And its mission is to inspire lifelong learning. So, really great stuff. So the Central Rappahannock Regional Library, which I'll also refer to as CURL for short, has a variety of programs. They're all free, and it's for all ages. So for English resources, we have an English conversation group. We have an English basics, and it's all to help customers, members of the community, improve their English. Currently, the CURL library offers 3 English conversation groups and 1 virtual. We also have 1 English basics for beginners, which is a class, and then an English language learner book group, and then a citizenship info session. Okay. All right. So the English conversation group at Porter needed some revamping after 2020. We had closed and then we started slowly opening. And some of the people that used to attend a conversation group, which we would have an attendance here at this branch of 10, 12 people, that was dwindling. That was starting to go down, but we still had people asking for classes. If they came to conversation group, they would want to know where are the classes. And unfortunately, English conversation group is not that. We're just practicing speaking skills. We talk about everything, but there's no formal structure like a class. So people were still coming in, they were still asking, they were requesting in-person classes, and they wanted these classes to be in their area. Sometimes Fredericksburg, which is about 30 minutes away, was just too far for some of our customers. Okay, so that was our challenge. And so the solution was to propose this idea where, okay, we might have this conversation group, but if that's not what people are interested in, let's make this program where we are sitting down with them, we're spending more time, and we're trying to figure out what they need, and then we're presenting what we have. So lo and behold, English Language Learner on Demand was born, and it's a way to show customers library and community resources at a slower pace, one-on-one. If they need help setting up a library account, because you do need a library account to use some of our resources. If you need to spend time with them, showing them how to navigate some things on their computer. And sometimes that ends up in a brief tour of the branch. So that is what this program is for. And sometimes, these customers, English is their second language. And we have people of, diverse cultures, backgrounds coming in. So because I'm bilingual, I am able to help the Spanish-speaking staff or Spanish-speaking customers. But when it's someone that speaks Farsi, for example, well, then, we take a different approach. Maybe we're using Google Translate, but it's made so we can spend time with them informing them of our resources, and then kind of an introduction to the community, because some of these customers, it's their first time here, they just moved here, they don't know their community quite yet. So having a safe space to practice their English, whatever way it looks like at that moment, makes them feel good. That's what we strive to do. So, health and literacy. In the US, 59 million adults read at or below level 1, the lowest level on a 5-level scale. So this means that 1 in 3 people have a basic understanding and can only read short sentences. And so that was proving true to the customers that would come to our desk. So what we wanted to do was to stray away from, oh, here's a list of resources, and if you have any questions, ask us, and send them on their way. No, they might not be able to understand the resources. They might not be able to navigate that. So taking the time to sit down with them, sometimes sitting down with them at the public access computers helps them feel a little more comfortable, letting them know that the library is here to help support them. So we're trying to eliminate this barrier because there are some people, and just last year I had a woman, Spanish-speaking woman, after we had this interaction, the ELL on Demand program, I heard her talk to her friend, and she was saying, oh, and here I was scared to come in. So there's still an element of fear, whether that's because it's a lack of information, of uncertainty of coming into a library and not knowing what to expect. Maybe someone's going to ask you for your documents, but we don't do that here. And so that's what they may not know. These branches, this library that we have, may not be something that they have at home. And so it's different when they come in here and they realize, oh, okay, well, the printing's free. The copying and the faxing is free. And signing up for a computer, using the computer, the free Wi-Fi, there's no cost to that. Getting a library card and checking out books, that's all free. So we have had some people come through and share different things about where they are in life. So for example, Sandra, she was a very diligent worker at a well-known fast food establishment, and she was up for a promotion. The supervisor manager really liked how she worked, but the setback for her was that her English wasn't proficient enough, and the position that she was being offered required her. It was like a shift leader, shift manager, and so she would have to dictate. She would have to give orders. She would have to be in charge of her team, and she needed to be able to communicate with her team. So, she was intimidated by the new position, but it did need a pay raise. And if she didn't improve her English, then she wasn't going to be able to move up. Excuse me. And then another person is José. And he was a diligent worker. He was very studious. If there was anything for improving his English, he was there. He went to the classes. He went to conversation group. And since we have different branches, he would come to this branch's conversation group, and then also to the other library's conversation group. And he would just be working, trying to get as much improvement as much as he could. But he was doing this so he could have some peace and be able to leave his current job, because he was working for his family, and he had told me he was tired and that it wasn't good for him. So it wasn't good for his health. All right. And then we have a few more here on the left. We have Margarita, and she has been attending English conversation groups and classes. But because of a brain injury that she had suffered, it was difficult to retain some of that information. So she was retaking some of these classes. And it didn't stop her. She was determined. She was determined to learn. And so when she was able to, she'd sign up for more because she wanted to improve her English. And then we have the couple from Cameroon. They came into English conversation group, and now their education was at a higher level, but because they weren't able to just jump into a job here, their English wasn't as proficient as they needed it to be. They were coming to conversation group, but what they were looking for were some classes to improve. They did like the conversation group because it helped with pronunciation. It helped them acclimate themselves to the culture here in the United States. But that was another hurdle that they had to jump through. And then Maria moved to the U.S. with a nursing degree, and she had her work experience as well, but she did not know English. And so she had a family to take care of, and she had limited transportation. So because of that, she had to familiarize herself with her neighborhood and learn how to use public transportation. And then it wouldn't be until much later that she would actually be able to enroll herself into an English program that could boost her confidence, and she could re-enter the workforce. Because before that, she was just at home, and she wasn't really able to do much. And, that's when depression starts sitting in. All right. So a ELL on demand, we have found that there's been 18 officially recorded sessions as of about a year ago. We started doing these before, but we weren't sure how to track them. So for a year now, we've been tracking them. There's been 18 recorded sessions. Sometimes it's one or two people, sometimes it's a family. The sessions last about 10 to 30 minutes, and it's a diverse group of adults that come in. And it's sometimes women. There's a few men that come in there as well with their wives. But the families that come in, let's say it's the mother looking for English language resources. Okay, well, you show them to her, you help her out, and then she says, okay, now I'm looking for a book. Okay, so we go find her a book, and then she's like, okay, well, I have a daughter with me. Can we find something for her? And so I take them over to the children's department, and I don't hand them over to the children's librarian if I need help. I will ask them, but I try to keep that conversation going. Sometimes we end up going back to the adult services department for something else for the adults. But we're making this, like an introduction to the community, an introduction to the library, and letting them know if they have any questions. They're welcome to come back. They can make another appointment. That we're here to help them, and we let them know what our resources, what our services are. So some of the frequently asked questions that we have: do you have English classes in Stafford? Are your classes free? And can I bring my child or children to a conversation group? And then when we tell them that there are English resources, language resources in Fredericksburg, they say that's too far. Do you have something closer? Do you help with resume, job searching, job applications? Do you have computer classes? And then can you help me fill out medical forms? And so all of these questions we're making a note of, because we're not looking to stop here. We're trying to meet the community's demands where we can, where we're able to. So, okay. So this is what our checklist for staff looks like. We give them a packet of our library magazine, which is a list of events for children, teens, and adults. We give them the resources list. We give them, have a couple brochures here to show you guys. And then we give them a bookmark where they can download the library app. And there's different topics to cover. Sometimes there's people that are only looking for English language resources, but then other times the conversation continues and they want to know what else the library has to offer them. And so we go into it. It's Help Now. That's job resources right there. Sometimes that's also GED resources. We have Canopy, Mango Languages, Transparent, Universal, all language learning resources, and then citizenship resources. We also have that, and we're looking to expand on that as well. And then our free printing, copying, faxing, and then we also do some notarizations. So when we tell them about it, they're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know like you had all this," and so it's a really great feeling at the end of that session that they feel welcomed, that they feel like this is a place they can count on to come in. And then that is an example of what we have. This online research brochure was actually what helped us make the next brochure, English Language Learner Resources. And this is what we typically use when we have these sessions. And then again, this is just the first page of that English resources list. We are planning to expand. So we are going to start a program called Literacy Lounge, where staff provide basic digital literacy, teach customers how to fill out patient intake forms, job searching. Right now, it's in the planning stages. So if it expands, if we get attendance, we would go weekly, and hopefully we can have volunteers. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I appreciate it. And we will go ahead and start with our Q&A. And so a reminder to our participants, if you would like to put those into the Q&A feature in Zoom. And I'll ask our first one we have here. And I know you kind of ended, Joanna, on some of the resources, but this person had asked, what curriculum or materials do you offer in your English classes or English conversation groups, or maybe more details about anything that you might want to share about that?
Yeah. So for our English classes or English basics, I'm not the facilitator for that group. That one is at Fredericksburg. So we are working on gathering good material for ours. But the English classes that they sign up for is through the Rappahannock area regional adult education. And so that is a formal class, and that is very popular in our region, but they are very swamped. Their spots fill up really, really fast. So we're just trying to fill in the gaps where we can. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And I want to ask about the responsiveness to patrons and participants, because you both, I think that's very apparent in both the things you guys talked about. And so did that always kind of seem natural to you? Have you learned that as you've gained experience? What significance does it hold to hear your patrons or participants and to actively respond to them the way that you guys have demonstrated?
Okay, I'm going to jump first. Well, in my case, it's been extremely rewarding because I think as I try to reflect on the presentation, usually when we conduct science, it's more about check the data or analyzing the data, and then we disseminate to the scientific audience, and well, we have knowledge that we hopefully, I mean, we think that will have an impact on the life of people. But here it is something extremely rewarding in terms to seeing from them their feedback immediately of the work that you are doing. And also it's surprising because sometimes you assume that something that you think is gonna, I mean, it's gonna work or it's not gonna work, sometimes work because people receive it like in a good way. Like for example, the fact that one of the things that they most value was these practical tips. For them was, I mean, moving this concept or the scientific knowledge to something extremely like concrete or applied to their life. They value that a lot. So that was something very important for us in terms of how we started to approach um, the scientific translation to the community. And the second one also was the fact that how important it is for us to always include the voice of the community when we are starting to think about a research project. Uh, well, here we develop this material and we hope that we will make this material grow and available for all the Mapuche communities. But from now, I think us as a group, we have put some like minimal requirements for us to think about a research project. So now, well, we need to go and ask them first what they think is relevant for them, and from that maybe what match with our scientific interests, and from them build something that is that feels like reciprocity in terms of creating the knowledge. So yeah, it's very valuable to hear from people back.
I agree. One of the things I love is when customers return, and maybe they were learning English to study for their citizenship, right? And they come back and they're like, "Guess what? I got it. Here's my certificate." And it's a reminder, and it's a good like push for us. Like, yes, we're doing something good. This is what the community is asking for, and yeah. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Thank you. Yeah, well, and it's just so apparent through y'all's presentations. I don't know if you like planned it to emphasize being responsive, but that's very apparent through everything that the work that you've done and the way that you presented it. And I don't know if you guys saw in the chat a comment that April had made. I don't know if you would have any comments in response to it, but she said, "My aunt is Ute. Her mom was forcibly sent to a boarding school and physically punished for speaking her native language. This has created so much generational trauma that has health impacts." And then I'm going to go ahead and put in another question. Through your presentations, both of you included some information about why these projects or programming matter to you. But I wanted to know if you had other details about the significance of this work for you, personally or professionally, why you started it, maybe what impact you believe it has had in general or for you. And then also maybe leading into what your future looks like. And I know, Joanna, at the end, you talked about kind of like some future plans, but any other info that you might want to give about what future work you may be diving into related to this or not.
Yeah, so my parents both moved here and they had to learn English different ways. And so when they'd come home, I remember them being frustrated sometimes with whatever they were learning or weren't learning, um, what was available and what wasn't available to them. And so growing up with that and then seeing that in my community, I was like, okay, well, now that I'm in a position where I can help in some way, what are some things that I can do to do it, to offer these resources to our community? And then the most recent program that we have ongoing, which is a little tricky, is citizenship info sessions. My coworker at the other Fredericksburg branch, she is doing citizenship classes, so studying to take the citizenship, and so we're kind of working off each other. I'm doing it for people who haven't reached citizenship yet and are maybe looking to become a permanent resident or something like that, just trying to get information. And that's right now a little difficult to get a hold of. But yeah, we try to work with our other branches, and teamwork makes the dream work.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. Well, I think one of the main finding was the fact that, or at least sometimes having a simple conversation can make a big difference. And in this case, we wanted to respond and research question in terms of the causes of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, but we started to realize that people really like it to talk about that topic. They didn't talk about this much often, and from that, we started to integrate on with the help with a lot of other people from who work on Mapuche community. We started to establish like these conversational groups about brain health, organized by the communities, and that's been extremely rewarding to hear that it is it was not because we developed this material, but it was because we bring it here, this topic, and people felt like very interested, and suddenly they started to speak about this topic like in a self-organized way. And in terms of projection, of course, we will like to keep pushing these conversational groups, which are like supported by the material what we developed. Um, and also, of course, we want to expand this material to most Mapuche communities that we could reach. And we noticed that, and I mean, in some moment we thought, oh, we need to create like a kind of book or version or something to include in libraries or something like that. But we realized that many of the participants or most of the participants, they never have attended a library, and they collect their own books in their family's library. So they have a group like I don't know, 3 to 4 families, and they all of them share a single like their own library as community. So that was something very interesting and a nice finding for us to think like how we can nurture those family libraries with this material or this meaningful material for brain health in order to move this knowledge not to the typical institutions, but also to move them inside to the communities.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all's response. We did have another question put in there, but we have about 30 seconds before I have to do my closing. So do you think you get something in about what the biggest challenges in building support from other libraries, nonprofits, or governmental agencies would be? If anyone for 1 minute wants to tackle that one. And if not, I can just do my closing because you guys have had so many amazing things. We don't want to talk too shortly, so I'll go ahead and do my closing. Thanks, y'all. So thank you to Jose and Joanna so much for your presentations today and your engagement with these questions and with each other. Thank you also to Tech, to April and to Olivia. Appreciate y'all's help, and to the audience for attending. We are committed to ensuring that CERT's programs are diverse, inclusive, and free for attendees. In order to do so, we rely on support from ALA membership and direct donations. You can help champion our roundtable's mission and commitments by donating at the link provided in the chat and or by joining CERT as a member. You can make a general gift or select the CERT task force or award that you would like to support. Please help us maintain our high quality programming like these two, the core values that sustain it, and our commitment to accessibility by making a donation, becoming a CERT member, or helping to spread word about our roundtable and events. Thank you. Our next session today is strengthening training and awareness to better serve all community members. And it will start at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we hope you can join us. Thank y'all for being here.